Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, how are you this morning? Or afternoon, whatever. How are you doing? You in good health, I hope? Secure? We're going to continue with the entry in Buddhism reference on Tien-Tai. It's kind of encyclopedic. Anyway, it's long. And I've tried to keep things brief in the Buddhism reference so you get the kernel of words, terms, concepts. And that's fairly easy to do for most words. But when it comes to Tien-Tai, not only is Tien-Tai or Zhiyi a large subject, but it's such a formational aha moment for Nichiren and his doctrine that it actually plays well into our practice, our study. Yeah. And just as an update, I'm sinking my teeth into the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the sutra taught at right after the Lotus Sutra and in Shakyamuni's final days toward extinction. And as you know from Nichiren and his writings, that the Parinirvana, or the Nirvana Sutra, as it's known in Mahayana, is largely a support document to the teaching Shakyamuni gave us in the Lotus Sutra. And, you know, unless you really go through it, it's kind of an abstract statement. What does that really mean, yeah? So as I dive into it, because I'm committed to giving you, I'm going to do a whole video series, podcast series on the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. I am annotating it. I'm fixing some of the biased rhetoric, of course, as I always do. But I'm going to be relating this Mahaparinirvana clearly, not only to the Lotus Sutra, because I think that becomes obvious the more you read it, the more you study it, but to help us all along, I will be making narrative comments during the reading of the sutra. It's a long one, so it's going to take me some time. And I'm relating wherever it's notable, although the whole thing relates to Nichiren. There are certain parts that Nichiren certainly either quoted or relied upon in his doctrinal analysis of the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra. And of course, Shakyamuni's own words. So we'll get that trifecta of very much, and it's funny this crosses my mind, that this aspect of Buddhism that is without time. So we're going to be speaking of Shakyamuni, Kunda and Manjushri and all the whole gang, Kashyapa, that are in the Nirvana Sutra, and Nichiren, as though they were all sitting in a conference room hashing this out. And I like that because that's essentially what we're doing. What I'm doing anyway. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you, but I'm just letting you know I'm in it. I'm going for it. So it's happening. It will be happening. And I may start doing actual videos on it long before I complete the whole text. It depends on how far we get. We're almost done with Buddhism reference. When I'm done with this, then we'll start on the Mahaparinirvana, unless something else intervenes, as it often does. But the one vehicle is where we're at now in Tien-Tai's progress or discussion of his great contribution to the scholarship of Buddhism. A central doctrine of Tien-Tai in China is the Lotus Sutra's doctrine of the one vehicle, right? The one great vehicle, the one Buddha vehicle. It's said many different ways. It's in fact introduced in the Immeasurable Meanings Sutra, right? The prologue to the Lotus Sutra. This doctrine provided a unifying and inclusive framework which could be used to understand all the Buddhist teachings. According to Jacqueline Stone, Zhiyi's view of the one vehicle of the Lotus Sutra is that conventionally it is subtle and wonderful in comparison with lesser teachings which are coarse. However, this is only true in a relative sense. Ultimately, the Lotus Sutra's subtle dharma is not established in comparison to anything else, for there is nothing outside it to which it might be compared. And that is because, of course, the Lotus Sutra is basically Shakyamuni getting down to brass tacks and saying, look, this is how it's done. It's not an evolution of teachings like it has been for 40 some odd years, right? 42 years or whatever is quoted. In these 8 years of teaching the Lotus Sutra, he just taught it as is, from his own point of view of attaining enlightenment, whereas previously he'd always taught with the point of view of reaching his audience and how they might pursue the path. Now the Lotus Sutra is saying, this is the path, do it or don't. And as I'm now reading or interpreting the Mahaparinirvana, all of the questions and doubts and beginner to experience questions about that are, they come up and they're responded to in the Mahaparinirvana. So it really is a kind of a bookend to the Threefold Lotus. So this is why I think it's important that I go through that exercise. Anyway, back to this. From the absolute perspective, the Lotus Sutra's one vehicle is open and integrated according to Zhiyi and includes all other Buddhist teachings and skillful means. From the ultimate point of view, all distinctions of true and provisional are dissolved since all teachings are expressions of the one vehicle. And you know, you've heard me say this over and over again, that yes, the Lotus Sutra is singular as the ultimate teaching of Shakyamuni's on Buddhist method for achieving enlightenment, yes? But that statement, that teaching of the method, in modern terms, we would say it assumes a knowledge base. And what is that knowledge base? All the previous teachings, right? So I'm not one of those who's going to tell you, don't read anything else, only read this, or you'll pollute yourself. Well, if you're easily manipulated, that might be true. But the fact of the matter is that if you approach all the other provisional teachings, and the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, for instance, which a lot of groups and sects don't want you to read. Why? If they're truly Shakyamuni's words, what do they got to worry about, right? The point is that if you make the Lotus Sutra, you commit, you resolve yourself to the method and practice and teaching of the Lotus Sutra, then you can read these other sutras with the mind that says, oh, I see where this began. Oh, I see how this was taught so that the next teaching dovetailed into it and explored an area that might not have been prepared for it. And guess what? You and I may have had those same stumbling blocks. And reading those earlier sutras or latter sutras opens up those blocked up aspects of our thinking so that when we return to the Lotus Sutra, now I get that. Now I get how that was built, that statement was made. It always seemed a little out of reach for me. But now if I follow this and this and this, I get how to bake the bread correctly now. It's just kind of how we learn everything, isn't it? When we want to. And again, the driving force of Buddhism, and Nichiren nails this all the time, is our commitment, our determination to do this, yes? According to Jacqueline Stone, quote, "This is an egalitarian, inclusive reading in which all teachings, in effect, become true because they all lead to the one," right? When you learned arithmetic, it came into its glory in algebra. But if you learned algebra first, you'd be really flummoxed by some of the ideas. But if you know arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, then algebra isn't so algebraic. It's just another way of saying, in more inclusive and complex terms, using that basic knowledge, yeah? So one doesn't supersede the other in importance. They're all trying to lead us to the same result. They're just more evolved and profound ways of understanding. But from the relative standpoint, a clear distinction is preserved between the true and the provisional. Well, yeah. You don't teach a 4-year-old quantum physics, do you? This is a hierarchical, potentially even exclusive reading, which emphasizes the superiority of the Lotus Sutra over the other teachings. Again, this is all Jacqueline Stone. But yeah, that's the accepted wisdom, isn't it? The unity of the Dharmadhatu. Since the three truths are one, and this truth is a single unity, Tien-Tai thinkers see the whole of reality as being a single interpenetrating whole, one integrated existence. This holism is described in different ways, such as the inter-inclusiveness of the 10 realms, or the interpenetrating unity of all aspects of reality. According to Swanson, in this view, everything contains everything else, and the whole contains all things. Zhiyi illustrates this idea with the simile of the drunk man from the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Isn't that interesting? Who perceives the sun as spinning around due to his condition, but in reality there is just one sun, and this is confirmed by sober people. However, Zhiyi also points out that even this idea of the one truth is just a concept. And as such, it is ultimately inadequate, since each and every truth is inexpressible, and the one truth actually no truth at all. Yeah, that's a melon twister. We'll get into it in the Nirvana, though, I promise you. According to Brooke Zipperoin, the Tien-Tai school's holism is derived from an extremely important passage from the Lotus Sutra, which states, "Only a Buddha, together with a Buddha, knows the ultimate reality of all things, how they appear, what their natures are, what they're made of, and what they are capable of, what they are doing, and what their causes are, what their conditions are, what their effects are, what their consequences are, and the way in which all these factors, from beginning to end, are equally ultimate and are ultimately one and the same." You might recognize that rhetoric. We sing it every time we do Gangyo. No they show, no they so, no they show, no they in, no they en, no they ka, no they ho, no they, right? The 10 factors. Zipperin argues that this passage points at the idea that each particular aspect of the world as we see it and feel it is ultimately real, that each one is in fact the absolute itself, the Buddha nature, the final fact about the universe, and that each thing, each appearance, each action is the ultimate reality of all other things. And that leads us to the 3,000 realms. Oh, Melly Mel, you are such an important part of what I do here. If I could get them apart, these little zippy things, man, they are the best. Thanks, Mel. And now we come to the 3,000 realms in one single thought moment of life. Where are we time-wise? Yeah, let's get into it. We may not finish it because it's big. But one of the ways this doctrine is explained is the idea of 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, or the presence of all 3,000 aspects of existence as each moment of experience. Right? This is where the potential of the engine of life, the Tathagata, which comes before formations, is part of formations. But by the time we get to the form part of that equation, or Namarupa, if you're following in the Dendana, is Buddha. Buddha is a physical container. Let me wind that back. Buddha is the sentient mind's experience of Tathagata, and that sentient mind, in order to emerge, comes of this physical realm. So Buddha and Tathagata differ in their manifestation. Tathagata has been there since the first formations, and therefore permeates everything, but it doesn't have a presence other than its potential. When it manifests presence in this physical world for us to perceive, cognate, see a state of mind, as you were, the ninth consciousness, yeah? Then it's called Buddha. Because Buddha specifically is an experience of that potential. Make sense? Okay. A lot of people didn't get that when they translated the various sutras and documents, still don't get it today. According to this teaching, the various realms of existence of Buddhist cosmology are all interconnected and interpenetrating. Furthermore, each of these states of existence can be experienced in one's own mind, and can therefore be seen as a kind of experience and a way of seeing the world, as well as a realm of rebirth. As Zhiyi writes, one thought, or mind, contains the 10 Dharma realms. Each Dharma realm also contains the 10 Dharma realms, so there are 100 Dharma realms. Each Dharma realm contains 30 worlds, so 100 Dharma realms contain 3,000 worlds. These 3,000 worlds are contained in one thought. So we've talked about that a lot on this channel. And there are dozens of videos dedicated just to this. It's an important concept to understand, and it is the door, I might say, to the experience of Buddhahood. According to Swanson, the main idea here is that all reality is interpenetrating and inclusive, so that one short thought contains all of reality. So what do we say about that? 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. While we're a freight train of karmic formations, as we instantiate moment to moment, that instantiation, that manifestation that we see as a self, is constantly being pulled, pushed, prodded, accentuated, diminished, according to what aspect of the 3,000 potential mind experiences is weighing on us loudest, most influential, most compounded, from moment to moment. That's why we can change our mind in an instant, because some other of the worlds, or several of them most likely, have worked themselves into our consciousness and has influenced or affected our entire freight train as momentum as it moves through time-space. And of course, when we chant, we're constantly realigning moment to moment those 3,000 realms toward life-affirming amazement of life experience, the experience of the actual process, the engine of life. Jacqueline Stone explains this as the idea that any single ordinary thought and all phenomena in the universe exist at each moment in a mutually inclusive relationship. Furthermore, the figure 3,000 is the product of multiplying specific numerical dharma categories, the 10 realms of sentient beings, their mutual inclusion, the 10 suchnesses, and the 3 realms. According to Stone, this concept also represents a totalistic view of interdependent reality, the Buddha and ordinary worldlings, body and mind, cause and effect, subject and object, sentient and non-sentient, are mutually encompassed in every moment of thought. Even though reality is a unified whole, the Dharmadhatu, it can be explained in different ways according to Zhiyi, such as the 2 truths and the threefold truth and the 10 realms. To other schemas, which Zhiyi employs, are the 3 subtle dharmas, sentient beings, Buddha, and mind, and the 10 suchnesses, which is drawn upon the 2nd chapter of the Lotus Sutra, to explain the various realms and how they have the same nature of the threefold truth. Since reality is unified in these ways, by contemplating one's mind and thought, one can contemplate the whole of reality and thus Buddhahood itself. Zhiyi explains this by commenting on a passage from the Avatamsaka Sutra, which states that, quote, if one disports one's mind in the Dharmatatu as if in space, then one will know the objective realm of all Buddhas. According to Zhiyi, the Dharmadhatu is the middle. Space is emptiness. The mind and Buddhas are conventional existence. The 3 together are the objective realm of all Buddhas. This means that if one contemplates the thoughts of one's mind, one can become endowed with all Buddha Dharmas. Zhiyi also calls the single reality the inconceivable mind, which contains all 3,000 dharmas and the threefold truth. We're going to stop there today. Next up will be Buddhahood. So, I think it's pretty easy to see as we read about Tien-Tai and Zhiyi and what follows, Anran, Mialo, Dengyo, leads straight to Nichiren. Nichiren elaborates and develops on these themes, but certainly we can see the beginnings, the roots of our profound understanding of the Lotus Sutra practice, yeah? So for now, I'll simply thank you once again from my deepest appreciation for your practice and, of course, for being here and participating. Your support means everything. You know, I've non-commercialized this because I'm sick of commercials and being interrupted by mindless promotions for things that have nothing to do with this endeavor, this teaching, this group of resources, from the website to the podcast to the bookstore. This is all to enable you to solidify your confidence and your resolve in practice. And you don't need to know what deodorant to wear in order to do that. All right. Enjoy your insights. Please discuss this amongst yourself if you get together. And I will see you in the next one. Yes? Bye for now.